2 weeks ago, a story on Fox News tried to connect White House shooter Oscar Ramiro Ortega-Hernandez to the Occupy movement. Since then, that story has been proven false, but I haven't heard a retraction from Fox News. So, I decided to correct the story for them. Here's a 3-minute clip from Fox and Friends from November 17th, and be sure to watch for Michelle Malkin as she talks, but the title bar doesn't match what she's saying.
But they're not sleeping. They're not sleeping in the tents anymore. Let's bring in Michelle Malkin now, live from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Good morning to you, Michelle.
Good morning to you, Gretchen.
So, keeping with the theme of the Occupy protesters here, it looks like this White House shooting suspect may have tried to blend in with the Occupy protesters in D.C. when he came from out west. So, I pose this question to you this morning. What would have happened if a Tea Party person had tried to do that?
Well, I think it's pretty predictable what would have happened. I've talked about this tendency before to blame righty syndrome on the part of the mainstream media over the last couple of years. Every time there's some incident of random violence committed, usually by somebody who's mentally ill, and the impulse has been by people who are detractors of grassroots conservatives to somehow tie it, even in the most remotest way possible, to the Tea Party movement, to Republicans, to Sarah Palin, to any of their GOP opponents. In this case, of course, there's now conflicting testimony or evidence of whether he was in the Occupy D.C. camp, but apparently, reportedly, allegedly, there is somebody within that movement who's confirmed that he was there at the camps. And
right.
You know, the police are not going to be completely forthcoming about what they found in their investigation. But the early reports, even from police sources, were that he was blending in with this crowd. Now, I am not going to engage in the same kind of exploitation of this particular incident that all of the Tea Party detractors did when the Gabriel Gifford shooting happened or the Holocaust Museum shooting, because I think this is like many of those other cases where the guy was just completely off his rocker and it had nothing to do with any coherent sense of political ideology.
Right. And Michelle, there's maybe you saw the video from yesterday. There's another fella who in New York City said, you know, we're going to burn this F-word town down, and I'm going to throw a Molotov cocktail into Macy's or
well, you just taking that the wrong way, Steve.
Yeah, exactly right. But he, too, is now being described in the local papers as being mentally unstable.
Yeah, well, see, now these are separate problems when you have the fact that these encampments, I call them the Camp Alinsky kids, are becoming basically lice-infested criminal magnets across the country. And you do have to question, in this case, where you have these people who are stoking violent rhetoric, where that's all coming from. And there is a larger plan of manufactured crisis and chaos that has been in the works in academia in places like Columbia University, Cloward Piven strategy of fomenting this kind of agitation as an excuse for bigger government intervention.
I've got a few things to say to Michelle Malkin about this story in particular. If you have to say apparently, reportedly, and allegedly as many times as you did in that clip, then you're not ready to have news cameras on you yet. You haven't done enough journalistic legwork. But if you'd like to see what would happen if you would do that journalistic legwork before you put the story out, there's a link in the description box to a story from the Washington Post, which actually says that 3 officers who were familiar with the case say Ortega had no connection that they know of to the Occupy movement. In fact, Ortega, when he was talking to police, said that he believed that Obama was the Antichrist, which kind of sounds like about a quarter of Fox News viewers. If you dig into the story a little bit closer, it seems that instead of labeling Ortega-Hernandez the Occupy shooter, they should have labeled him the Fox News shooter because his political leanings are a lot closer to Fox News viewers than they are Occupy protesters. This entire strange story actually sounds like some sort of right-wing wet dream where the people that they label liberal puppets every day end up trying to assassinate a Democrat president.